If your doctor keeps putting you on more and more insulin, and it seems like no matter what you do, the weight isn't budging, you feel exhausted, and it seems like nothing is working, well, these 3 foods might be the culprit. My name's Lillie, I'm a certified nutrition health coach, and recently I sat down with Dr. Roshani, who has spent years studying insulin and metabolism, and in today's video, she reveals the 3 foods you need to stop eating today to protect your health. And I was actually surprised by the 3rd thing because I don't really hear people talk about this food additive often, so here's what Dr. Roshani had to say. Dr. Roshani, could you just give some background for people who may not be as familiar with you, who you are, what you do, and why you're online sharing your message?
Oh, thanks, Lillie. I'm an endocrinologist, so that's a hormone specialist doctor. It's after med school, you specialize in internal medicine and then go deeper into the hormones. So if it's anything to do with metabolism or hormones, or in simple language, diabetes, weight, or anything hormonal, that's my specialty. And I've kind of taken my practice to go beyond just looking at symptoms and blood reports and giving out medication for each symptom. I have transformed my practice over about 15 years where I'm now using a lifestyle first approach, and I want to help people know what they can do, whether it's nutrition or sleep or stress management, exercise, fasting, as tools where as their doctor, I can look into their medication and see if we can get them to better health with less medicine.
Excellent. And I feel like nowadays, most people tend to have some sort of hormonal imbalance. It seems more common that people are like stuck. They can't seem to lose the weight. It's not budging. And do you think that there's some underlying root thing that most people are struggling with? Or is it multiple different things under the surface that are contributing to people's overall hormonal imbalances?
Yes, it's definitely multiple things. I think it comes down to a few common root issues. People say this, I'm from the Indian culture and I live in India right now. I've lived half and half almost in the US and India. And yet sometimes I'll have a patient or a friend at a party say, but our ancestors ate this way and their traditional diets were grain heavy and they never got sick. And I'm like, first of all, your ancestors aren't in the room, so I cannot have a conversation with them. I don't know what they were doing right. But even if we want to quote our ancestors' diet, I think we need to also look at what else our ancestors were doing correctly, which was maybe they were grain heavy, especially in India, a lot of vegetarianism, but maybe they weren't overusing their gadgets late into the night, using an LED screen 6 inches away from their face, trying to fall asleep, keep scrolling till your eyes close. Maybe they didn't have the chronic stress that we have where, they more had a interaction with nature, they were outdoors, we're so confined, we're a little bit less socially connected. Maybe they had more community that supported them. They were probably more active. Not every home had a car. Right now we have families with 2-3 cars per home often, many times. So we're not moving as much. There are so many things that are going on besides the whole processed food and junk and all that that's going on. I've been using the analogy for a long time. It's a car. Okay, and it's got these big wheels, right? I wanted to make sure that I was giving more attention to the wheels rather than the car itself. So think of these as nutrition, sleep, stress management, exercise, these 4. And somebody might be doing everything right in 3 areas of life, and they might have 1 flat tire. One area is just affected, and maybe it was going fine, and then they've hit some trouble in the road. They've driven on top of a nail, and now here you go, you've got this flat tire. The analogy works for me because life is not static. When sometimes we say 4 pillars, sometimes 4 pillars, I used to use the example of 4 legs of a table, but it didn't give me the dynamic nature of life. Life is constantly moving. We've got weddings and holidays and bumps in the road and bad weather. So many things you have to navigate to keep your nutrition, sleep, stress management, exercise, and juggle all of this. And so I like, these have lots of suspension here. There's lots of wobble, lots of wiggle room. So maybe something's going off in life. But if you can learn how to balance these 4 wheels, it helps you sort of navigate through the ups and downs.
The reason why I love your car analogy so much is because I also explain kind of food through a car, but in a little bit of a different sense. So I'm going to add on to how I explain the car with your wheels now, because usually I talk about Protein is the building blocks to our body. Protein helps build our hair, our skin, our nails, our bones, our immune system. And so similarly, protein is the thing that builds the car. It builds the windshield wipers, the steering wheel, the seat belt, the gas pedal. But then we don't want our car just sitting in the garage. We want our car to move. And so it is able to move via gasoline. And the gasoline comes from the fats and or carbs or a combination or mixture of both. And so I love that now I can say, and each wheel is nutrition, sleep, stress management, and exercise. So I think that that's a wonderful way for people to picture, okay, I need to build my car, so I'm going to focus on the protein. I need to fuel my car, so I need to have some of the extra fats and or carbs. And then I need to make sure I'm also doing the other three pillars to be able to keep going, because otherwise that's when people start seeing their car needs to go into the shop.
Exactly. And then we have to come in as mechanics and do our checklist.
Totally. What are the top 3 foods you think are contributing to insulin resistance? And maybe it's more than 3 foods, and maybe it's not foods as a whole, maybe it's ingredients.
Yeah. I'm going to say flours. So not just grain, because the scam here, if I may use the word, is we say whole wheat flour. And to me, that's an oxymoron, because if it's whole wheat, it's not a flour, right? If it's whole grain, it's not a flour. So to me, a whole wheat grain is so less harmful than wheat flour, like whole wheat berries, or where you actually slow cook that wheat kernel and eat it whole, versus powder that just melts in your mouth. So you have a big spike in carbohydrate entry into the system. Because of that, you have to have a big spike in insulin. And because these foods are not filling, they're not satiating, you're hungry, you get a spike in energy, you eat, and then the energy crashes, you're hungry again. So it's not just that you get this one big insulin spike, because you're hungry and eating often, eating again. And these are the low-cost foods as well. So you end up finding a lot of people who are snacking on these low-quality foods, just in and out of high insulin. So to me, flours, carbohydrate flours.
And can you give some examples for people? Maybe that's like white bread and.
Yeah. So to me, brown bread is basically the same as white bread. In India, we have millet bread because they feel like going gluten-free is giving them some advantage. But, they're not aware that it's still powdered millets. It's not whole millet anymore. And yes, you might have gotten rid of gluten, but you haven't gotten rid of the carbohydrates. And because you have broken down the seed, you're going to have a very negative metabolic effect. It's going to hit your hormones very differently, because that powder is so easy to just digest in your mouth.
So if someone's going to the grocery store, then most people, I was never someone who bought flour, but I bought cereal and crackers and bread and tortillas.
Yeah. So wheat bread, baked stuff, any form of bread, essentially. Pasta is flour. And what else comes in flour?
Cookies.
Baked stuff. Anything baked is going to be, so that could be savory, it could be salty. Pizza has a pizza base, a bun, hot dog buns. Yeah, pretzels. Yeah, now I'm getting the hang of it. I'm reclassifying these as powders now for the first time. So I'm having to mishmash all my words. Yeah, so snacks, right? If we come to crunchy snacks, they may say that it's whole grain trail mix, but if it melts in your mouth, like if they say puffed rice snack, like cereal, that you pour puffed rice or puffed wheat or puffed corn into a bowl and just touch it to milk, and it just suddenly dissolves and melts in your mouth without any chewing. So it's crunchy and then it suddenly gets soft. Or it's a snack that, like you said, the pretzel, it just dissolves in your mouth. It has crunch on the outside, but it's basically powder on the inside again. Sweeteners, sugars, hidden carbohydrates, that would be the second category. And the third is probably emulsifiers. Now, some people call emulsifiers differently on labels. They'll call it stabilizer. Like one of the most notorious emulsifiers is CMC, carboxymethylcellulose. And there are some food manufacturers that get away without saying emulsifier. They've started calling it stabilizer. So you may not be primed to thinking stabilizers are bad, but CMC is notorious for allowing bacteria to penetrate into the supposedly sterile regions of your gut where bacteria should not be present. Once you lose that barrier, unwanted bacteria are able to get through, and it's being done by emulsifiers, which we want in the mouth for mouthfeel and smooth texture. But then as it goes down, it keeps doing its emulsification and breaks down your gut barrier. It seems to cause what in lay language people may call a leaky gut. And what this means is we don't want unfriendly bacteria getting inside our system. We don't want inflammation or harmful chemicals that should just have been thrown out our backside when we were done digesting. Some of that starts to enter our bloodstream. So that can trigger inflammation. Inflammation and insulin resistance kind of are two sides of the same coin. So emulsifiers seem to be playing a role. But the catch is, the same way medications get studied very carefully before they're released into the public on, to say safe for consumption at mass level, these nutraceutical food additives are not put through that kind of safety testing. So a lot of this data on what's an emulsifier doing to the human body is only in retrospect. We're not getting trials to say, is this safe or not? So sometimes the data is a bit messy and you have to really go looking for it.
Today's video is sponsored by Bioptimizers. If you're looking for a magnesium that can help with leg cramps, constipation, digestive issues, sleep, heart palpitations, then this is the magnesium I recommend, because unlike other magnesium brands that have 1 or 2 forms of magnesium in them, this brand has 7 forms of magnesium. It's got chelate, glycinate, oxide, malate, orotate, taurate, and citrate. Often people wonder, what is the best form of magnesium? When really, all of the forms do different roles within the body. For example, magnesium citrate can help support digestion and relieve constipation. Magnesium taurate can help with the heart and regulating blood pressure. Magnesium glycinate can help with sleep and relaxation. And so to me, I really like the Bioptimizers brand of magnesium because it does have the 7 forms of magnesium that help in all these different areas. If you'd like to check them out and support this channel, you can get 15% off of any of Bioptimizer's products using discount code LillieKane. But if you want the biggest savings and gifts, then load up your cart now and check out between November 23 and December 3 to get 25% off for Bioptimizer's Black Friday sale. This part is exclusive to my audience only, so go to link bioptimizers.com/LillieKane to get those big savings and free gifts on select purchases. After December 3, this bigger discount and gifts goes away, so don't miss it. And what are different foods that have emulsifiers or ingredients? If people turn over their package, what are the words that they could look out for? Because it doesn't say usually stabilizer.
Right. So you may, so from a texture perspective or food experience, think of something that's smooth in your mouth, okay? So ice cream, syrups, sauces, even protein bars, unfortunately, and I haven't found one protein bar that meets my standard of being, having acceptable packaging additives, because it's not easy to consume a protein powder dry. And so when they add it, either they're adding like some sweetener like a date to make it chewy and fudge-like, or they're adding a lot of emulsifiers. So protein bars will have emulsifiers. A lot of baked items also have emulsifiers. It's all about mouthfeel. So ice cream is one of the notorious ones. So be careful with anything that feels really smooth on the mouth. Even chocolates, like low quality chocolates, have emulsifiers, because then you just feel that slippery feeling in your mouth.
And do you think seed oils play a role in insulin resistance through inflammation, or do you think that that's something that's been kind of blown out of proportion and not as big of a deal?
Yeah, that's a new one on my radar. I've spent about 15 years reversing insulin resistance with people without necessarily changing their cooking oils at home. I did it by reducing their carbohydrates. I know there are a lot of people who insist that seed oils are really bad and omega-6 ratios and things like that. I'm open to the theory. I'm not going to deny that it is a processed, oil when you put oils through those very toxic, refining processes. But we don't have really great data. I don't think we have great data. A lot of the data is observational. And which one made the population sick at the level of millions? It's hard to say. I know in my own practice that not touching oils and only touching carbohydrates, I've been able to help a lot of people turn their health around. So it might not be like a deal breaker. Sure. Should we look at our pantries and make some changes? I think that's a fair thing to think about.
And sometimes too, it's hard to know what was the thing that is causing the inflammation and obesity and cravings, because if we look at a piece of bread nowadays, it has emulsifiers, it has flour, it has seed oils, it has added sugar. So it's hard to pinpoint like what is the thing about the bread nowadays or the pizza crust nowadays, because that has seed oils. So maybe we're removing the thing thinking, oh, it's because of the flour, which I agree. But maybe also because there's high fructose corn syrup inside of the pizza sauce. So there's just so many different factors.
Yeah, I'm so with you on that. And I think it's good common sense to say, let's go for less processed fats and let's go for more naturally taken fats from our sources, whether it's animal fat or plant fat like avocado, olive, things like that, coconut. I'm all for going less processed. But exactly like you said, I think even, to jump into like red meat, right? When people said red meat was bad for you, it causes cancer, the data was so messy. People who were consuming that red meat were eating all kinds of junk food that had red meat.
And smoking cigarettes and not exercising.
Exactly. So I think there's a lot of confounding noise in nutrition data right now for us to say that's the one thing. So you have to, at least with the client in front of you, the person, patient, family member, you have to at least show them something that works. And I think I'm very confident to say going low carb is by far the most non-controversial thing to do as a first start.
There will be another part to this conversation with Dr. Roshani, where she shares an easy morning routine that can start helping turn around insulin resistance in a matter of days. So stay tuned for that video. Make sure to subscribe. And I'll also link Dr. Roshani's contact information and her book, Turnaround Diabetes, in the video description. If right now you feel like you're doing everything right, and yet the weight won't budge, you're still not feeling well, you're still struggling with some insulin resistance, then I would check this video out next, because I think it's something that a lot of people don't recognize can definitely be impacting their health, their weight, their blood sugars, their blood pressure, and so much more. I hope you guys have a happy day, and I'll see you in the next one.